back us up where we were.
Uh-huh.
I guess where we left, I'm going to go ahead and do the remote control request just in case I need it. I'm not going to do anything with it for the moment, but anyway.
Yeah.
The place where we left was that we had the left side worked out. Okay. And we did that with, and we had it worked out simply in the sense of, let's see, did you give me remote?
Oh, sorry. Hang on. Let me
oh, that's
write
right.
in a note there. I didn't look
There
up
we
at my
go.
screen.
Yeah, there we go. So what we did, there we go. Finally, it's a little bit of a lag. Okay. So we had this edge worked out over here, and we had it worked out in the sense that it took from the crown, and its normal position is 10 feet or a 2% drop slope from the crown outward on each side,
yes,
which would hit this
that's
white
correct.
line. And that's just shown there for reference. It's not used for anything, this white line
Yes.
here. So then what we did is we took where that white line actually came back into where it's back to normal. We drew another piece of this line out here for it to follow, and it came down this edge of pavement and shut over here because the curb ended, and then came this way. So that was our edge of pavement. So that's
the center
what's
line
called, and that's what's called a template point center line, because it took the template point EOP, except I think that's called TG or something for, I don't know, top or toe of gutter. I don't know what it stood for.
I remember that.
Yeah. So in fact, that gave me a little bit of an issue on the other side, because when I kept trying to have it, I went ahead and extended the effort to a template point profile, and I kept trying to make it catch, and it wouldn't. And I kept looking at the result compared to the existing grade. It just wasn't catching the ground. I couldn't figure it out, and it turns out I had typed the wrong 2 letters. Instead of I had like FG instead of TG or whatever it was. And I'll show you that when we get to it as to what to look for and why it was an issue. Now, a couple things here. This this edge of your new road, again, it's creased in the middle without doing anything on the edges. It's creased in the middle and goes out 2%. All right, and that includes up here right where it meets this existing road. Okay.
That might be a problem there.
Well, it was. It's no longer. So what happened was, because we use this whole concept of pushing the center line out horizontally with template point center line, you can also optionally have, in addition to that, a template point profile. And that means you establish a profile for that little piece, and it doesn't have to be, the same one you do. It could have been another one up here. Even if the horizontal doesn't depart, you can have it do something else. You can have, you could define ditch lines that are not at the same slope as the corresponding center line of the road's part. So anyway, so what I did is I took this out here to where it intersected, got that elevation, which you see I've got is 578.18 as opposed to the 24, and that's because mine is right here as opposed to right here.
And I could change 2D line work later to reflect that.
Oh yeah, that stuff's there, but I just did this from the surface inspector, got this down. Now there's a reason I had to do this here, and you can see this green line, this double, this is the back of the curb, this is the face, and it departs from this cyan colored line, which is where yours is. And the reason for that is this yellow line is exactly perpendicular to the center line of your road. The gray line is
the edge of pavement, which
the actual edge of pavement. That's right, and it's at a slight skew angle. Well, that's okay. You can have that, but what happens when it pushes that center line, remember that point of the pavement is really only supposed to be 10 feet away or 12, whatever the lane width is from the center line, but it's pushing it way out here and it pushes it out perpendicularly. So it pushed it out here in this piece, back beyond where it's connecting in here. Or
Yeah.
I mean, if I follow this blue one is what I mean to get to, because it comes out here and then the curve bellies out and it gets, out to this point and it just sort of goes bluey out here because it never really ties into that. So I had to sort of jockey around this point and find the place where it would push out without, going way out here. And what happened before is when I had it following this blue and it went out to this edge, because that point is actually at some forward station. You see,
Yes.
it's
not at the
this yellow
0
line.
point,
Yeah,
0.00.
right. So what winds up, what you wind up having is you have this little bitty teeny little strip of something until you get to that station, and then it tries to push that all the way out here, and then you get that little sliver in between that's missing. So anyway, all of that stuff was just some fine tuning to get that to this point. Now, the other side, when let me finish this thought. Is what I was doing. So then I got this elevation, and I knew that it needed to, or from talking to you, I knew that all we were really trying to do is to blend this entrance, and we really wanted to come back into the 2% cross slopes at this apron location. I could have pushed it all the way up to here, but that's a little wonky. So up to this point, I then set up, and you can see from, let's just go to this so you can take a look at the components. If I'm looking at my Towpath, now did you, yeah, you put all these things over there. There we go. So if I look at Towpath,
if we have to reference them, I have them on my desktop. So,
okay, that's they should take care of it. So you see this entrance flare profile, that is the road, or that's the set of flares, and I've got on the right and the left, I've got entrance flare left and entrance flare right. So let's just take a look at the one on the left as we are talking about it. Oh, let's see, that's defining the definition. What I want to do is, instead of that, because that's a definition of multiple profiles, I need to go to the profiles menu and actually edit that profile. So I'll go to that profile editor, and there's my entrance flare left.
so
when I look at, so when I look at that here at station 0 at 578.18, let's see, that number right there. And I took it all the way up to where I knew I wanted to touch down again. And now notice I've got two different readings here. I've got existing ground, and I've got road, because that road, when I pushed it out here, only had it follows the normal 2% crown. So that's what the road is at this point, is 577.89. And so that is to be that endpoint.
That's the transition of the profile. Yeah, that's the point where we're in transition. Yeah, makes sense.
So I started at the existing ground, and I went all the way to its end and gave it this. Okay.
Perfectly.
Yeah. Now, two ways. In fact, I think the way I did that to begin with was not through this, although you could have done that, except the problem is you got to learn how to, you need to be able to free up those PIs. And or actually
I like
delete
the way you
them.
did it. Here's the reason why. Even though the slope of the road is sloping down toward the right of way, and then from the right of way it's sloping back down to the edge of pavement, I'm going to be putting 2 catch basins on either side of the street at the end of the gutter, because the highway department, they don't mind me grading like this. I just have to catch the runoff before it goes off site into the road.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't have your road dumping out into theirs. Yeah.
So
although
if we start bending the grade back, if I make a hill out of that, then I'm going to wreck the profile of the grading of my road.
Right. But
it's just the way it is.
Yeah, but even though you're catching it, where are you putting it from the catch basin? Are you tying into the road's system?
I am tying it back northeast toward the pond. So
you're keeping it on your site. You're not able to connect to if they have one in their road or anything.
I'm taking it back toward the detention basin, and I'm not really fighting grade. I'm going opposite of grade.
Yeah. I've had a couple of jobs where the agency said, no, you got to catch that when you can't run your grade, you can't run your drainage out into the roadway.
Yeah, you need a trench drain.
So you got to catch it. Said, okay, so I catch it now, and then they said, okay, now you can tie into the storm system that's in the road. And I said, that would have done the very same thing. All I'm doing is putting it in 15 feet of pipe before I get to your same system. So anyway,
they're going to want me to detain that. So
so you're going back on site. That's fine. All right, now.
Yeah.
So that was the process. I found out the surface elevation of the existing ground. I then found out the surface. Now I showed both just to show that they're different. But I didn't use this existing ground number for anything other than my own information. I went from touching the ground here to here at the roadway as it, remember, I processed it first. I processed it one time where it's 2%, 2%, read the elevation, used that, and then put it back in, and I got some more processing done. Same thing here.
Okay.
And this is for the centerline profile, which you can see it's exactly the same. And that's because you found out what that was when you designed the profile, and that was fine. That's exactly right. So that ties exactly there. Then, so I repeated that same process over here. Did the horizontal center line. I did the profile. Now I had to do some other tweaks and adjustments and stuff over here, just like I did on the other side for that perpendicularity issue. And you can tell it when it generates this surface. You can tell how far out it's going to go, because I think the first time it went, I don't know, either way out this way or it fell short or something. Anyway, there are times you have to sort of tweak those points. So and the only thing you can do is just keep processing. And that's why I cut this down to a shorter length, just to keep.
Well, I have to remember when I do this in the future, I'm going to have to make the road perpendicular to the center line, regardless of whether it is in real life or not. That's going to save me a lot of time and a lot of hard knocks, and they could feather it in the field.
Yeah, I mean, you can, and here's what Lon was trying to have you do, and what Carlson folks do a lot of times is they'll want you to build a little piece of this existing road from
they want to build a fake road,
from out here to out here, beyond the point where these edges will intersect. And so if you define its edge of pavement, and you've defined your edge of pavements, and that would be along this white line instead. Okay. And you've got your edge of pavement, which is that gray line. Then when you process this, it treats this as an intersection. It builds all this stuff for you. Okay.
I understand.
And that's why they did that. Now, you couldn't
which was a great idea, but he had a whale of a time trying to figure out, based on my survey, to replicate
Yeah.
the dummy center line of Tonawanda Creek with the new one. It was just driving them up and down the wall.
Yeah, see, that's the problem is you've got very scant data out here in terms of elevations. Now you got some, but I mean, if you look at that existing grade in there, it's really messed up. Okay. And now it's not so much that you can't build this project from, but it's enough to where it's going to throw this automatic processing out a bit. So
that's what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the way we're doing that. Now, once we did that and processed that roadway, we still have this file. And if I look at my, oops, sorry, wrong. If I look at my surface file viewer, I've got I don't see today's meeting. Oh, here it is. This is the original surface. Okay. Let me turn this off so I can see. There we go. So as we looked at in some of these several previous sessions, I've got this little wonkiness going on right in there. Okay.
I see.
And it doesn't see like that. And so it doesn't exactly follow what should be happening. There should not be a triangular piece of curb out there. And that's happening because of the transition. The actual surface should be along that little edge right there. I can't get it to.
Well, it also pinched the profile all the way down to the catch point. You can see where it did down below there. Yeah.
So anyway,
neat.
so that
you put a catch basin in there, that'll definitely hold the water. But I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that would do that. So now, so what I did from there is that I loaded up that other surface.
Yes.
And made a couple of those direct edits using when you're in a 3D view surface view, then you can turn on your triangles if that helps you to do it. You don't have to do that, but if you did that, then you could let's see, there's your contours if you'd like. I mean, you know how to do all this part of it, but let me set that to something that we're not using so we know what we're looking at there. And we'll set the edges to, let's say, this sort of tealish blue and see what that looks like. So there's that. We set our triangle edges. Yeah, all right. So that'll help us to guide. So what I did was to fix all that. Now you see this contour that comes down here and then goes back, has this sort of W looking shape to it. And you see those little
jaggedy things.
What if it's some people call it the jibber jabbers. Those are a result of these triangles being real long and narrow and then side by side, and so they come across here and they hit and they sort of so and a lot of people fix those by swapping triangle edges. And see there, you can tell it right there. And so that fixes sometimes a lot of it cosmetically, and that's not necessarily what we want to do. We really want to have some more definition out here so that these triangles don't have to go from, say, this edge all the way up to the center line. It's got some other target in here to try to find. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So what I did as part of this surface fix up is I took these two lines and you can see they're sort of out here on this creased edge where those little weird contours were. And I laid them down
Mhm.
on this surface. Now, as they went
Mhm.
from here to here, I turned that into a 3D polyline,
Okay.
but only
2D to 3D.
only holding the
Only
vertices.
point.
Yes, do not put a point everywhere across the triangle yet. So
So
I
just
did that.
starting and starting and ending. You match the
Yes.
starting point and the ending end point to the surface. Okay.
Yes. And then gave
Fine.
that.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Sure. Then gave that. I told it to densify my polylines.
Mhm.
If you're aware of where that is, it's under this polyline utilities bed right here. Now that can also be done when you are building your surface under triangulate and contour. Is there's a switch in here to densify your break lines right here.
Okay.
And what that does is it goes through, and as it's looking, it would see this as a break line. It would stop and densify it and to build the triangles, and then it throws away those extra points. So that's really what you should wind up doing. But I wanted to show you so you can see it in here. And I've only got 2 in here, so it's not that big a deal. But if you do it for massive surface files, you wind up adding all these points to your drawing file, and you don't really need them. So, so when you choose this, if you say to densify your break lines, you're going to get more triangles out of the deal. So
yes,
that's what I did after the fact. I took the and the road processing, by the way, that won't do it. That will not encounter this these two 3D lines. So then I went to my surface triangulation surface manager, found that there it is. So I found that new road edited was actually the one that I used. That was after I took those little curb points out of it by removing points. So I took that, and then I said edit, and then so it draws these temporarily. And then I did over here, and this is sort of like what you could do inside the Surface Viewer, but it's more extensive. So then over here in this dialog control, and I'm trying to move that, there we go. If I could pull that down and say add, well.
All right. I never did this before.
Yeah, you can't really add a break line with that. You need to add, I mean, you can try to. The problem is that as it crosses, some of those triangles are terminal triangles, and so it won't allow you to put a break line there. But if you say add entities, it lets you do it. And so when you do that, now I'm going to do this one and show you the result of it, because you can see where those triangles are now. So if I say this, and I apply that one, now watch what it does to the triangles. It's in the process of redrawing the triangles.
I see. I've never used this command.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of lag on this thing here.
One town engineer actually gave me grief for seeing the jag of these things. But,
yeah,
you know, I faked the contour line.
Well, yeah, and so many people do that, and so many reviewers think that if you just get rid of those jaggies, then that fixes everything. No, if you take that surface that produced that jaggy looking contour and put it on a bulldozer and said, go out there and build this based on machine control, then you're going to get a jaggy surface.
Right.
Now it's not going to be,
exactly right.
It's not going to be so terrible that you can't, I'm not seeing the triangles redraw here. They should be redrawing. If I take that and say, okay, Or is it, do you see the triangles come back on your end?
No, it just says it made 3,029 of them. It's just not redrawing them.
Yeah, okay, so anyway,
But
let's,
if you reran, okay, so you have to do this after you run RoadNet, after you
yeah, you, right, RoadNet won't incorporate these. There's nothing in the definition of the road surface that brings these things in. You would have to make those, yeah,
every time
you do it, right?
Okay.
Because what happens is, now if I said okay there, now here, see what happens over here in RoadNet is we have in the settings, we tell it to generate those surfaces, and it generates the surface based on those template definitions and the tie-in targets. Okay.
Yeah.
So if this is not a template, if that's not a point of your defining template, it doesn't know how to use that and incorporate that into the surface. So what I did was I took the original surface called New Road and I edited it first in the viewer. Now I don't have to do any of it in the viewer. It's just that now that you can, and that's where I took out those little triangle pieces of curbing because of that transition from this no gutter to the gutter. And by the way, if you carried this gutter all the way out to the street, you wouldn't see that. That point wouldn't show up there. It would just follow all the way out. Or if you had no gutter out on your part, you wouldn't see that little triangular jut out. But that's okay. So so after I took care of that, I now had one called New Road Edited, and that's the one that I did. And if I choose this here and let's say edit, you should see yeah. See, it's still not, something about pick a point or a point number. So I'm trying to do this as a break line. Let's see if I do. I see this is not, it's not, it probably won't let me do it. And I have to manually go to those snap points. All right, so see, new edge crosses existing hard break lines. Oh, okay, so it will let me override them. In the viewer, it won't let you override.
Okay, yeah.
But it's not.
Well, we could do it here instead of the viewer. That's okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm not. I want it to. I want it to show the triangles shifting, and I'm not seeing that happening here.
You might have to redraw. You might have to redraw the 10. Maybe.
No, I mean, no, because what happens when you do something like, let's say, let's swap this edge, for instance. When you do that, and it says select an internal edge to swap, and if I pick that point, see how it redraws itself.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So that's why I'm trying to get this. So let me undo, and undo. And you see it keeps that list of changes so you can come back to them. So now if I add an entity, that's what I've been trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Add an entity, select the entity. There's the entity. Let's just do the one. I hit, I don't know why it didn't do that last time. Okay. So you see what it did is it's now, and if I do that same thing over here, man, I don't have any idea why it didn't.
Well, we're using IntelliCAD, so AutoCAD might have the boogans, but this should be okay.
No. See that it immediately did it. The last time I was trying to show you this, I must not have hit the enter. I hit the right mouse button to say enter. I don't know what, maybe I missed hitting the enter key. So anyway, So now remember where that jaggy contour was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I do that and say, okay, now I'm in that file called, and here it is. Now,
Mm-hmm.
there's a couple of things to know about this surface manager.
Mm-hmm.
If when you, and these are all the surfaces that have been associated with this file, and you can load and unload and take these in and out and work on them as you want. You can make them your cert, you know, and there's that new road median merge. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But this new road edited, let's see, we'll make that our current one. So that's, I'll tell you about that in a minute too. Keep your eye on that, or keep that in mind. But if you look at the settings, for instance, of that, I've got, you know, here's where you can set triangle colors and such transparencies. Well, these are edges and break lines. You can't really set the other, you know, individual triangles like RoadNet does.
Right.
But you can do a couple of those kind of things. But you can also do, if you see this draw bit,
Mm-hmm.
if you click that, and if this is turned, here's this erase previous contours, by the way, when it says
Mm-hmm.
all, or if you says current surface, that's what, when you set this to the current surface, it limits
Mm-hmm.
it to that surface. So that's where that was. All right, now under triangulate, if you have any of these things checked on,
Mm-hmm.
then, and like draw contours or whatever else, then when you get out of this, it redraws it for you
Mm-hmm.
and keeps
Nice.
it going here. And even if in your settings over here and you're trying to run, if you've set that new road to be current and under its draw, so sometimes you might constantly see those triangles keep redrawing themselves as permanent features. You need to
Mm-hmm.
go into this surface manager, go into that draw stuff and uncheck those things that it's drawing. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
every time you work on that surface, it's going to draw it into your drawing. So just sort of keep that in the back of your mind. Now,
Thank you.
there's also, if you look at any of these, and I'd say, well, here's one I think that I worked on. Let's see if it kept the history. You see this history button?
Mm-hmm.
When you look at that one, and it brings it up, it does not have history stored, can only be rebuilt based on, all right.
Okay. Okay.
I'm going to say no, but anyway, if I look at this one now, let's see if that has the history stored. Okay, so you can, that's it, unable to load the surface. Okay, that's from the previous one. But anyway, this will keep those edits that you make to things that you can go back and reapply them. For instance, all right, so that's, it didn't have it stored, but if you've made some edits to this, and I really don't do a lot of training on that particular tool, because what I like to tell people to try to do is when they like, you know, like adding this break line to the surface, because
Mm-hmm.
we wanted to fix those triangles. Now, what I would normally have people do is, we're going to build this surface. Even a RoadNet generates the base of it, but once we've changed it and then we built these two things,
Uh-huh.
then I'm going to create a new surface just from the 3D line work that gets built. And now
Understood.
this new line work. Okay, so what I want
Mhm.
people to do is to change the data. Don't change the triangles. And so many people, when they see those editors, they go in there and they start swapping the 10 edges just to get the contours to look smooth, as if that's doing anything at all to the surface, and it's not. Or if
Uh-huh.
they, even worse than that, if they go in there and just edit a polyline to make the
Uh-huh.
bumps go away, the
Uh-huh.
bumps are still in that surface. All right, so
Yeah, well, let me take over for just a second. There is under
sure,
settings something under
yes, smoothing contours.
there's two ways of smoothing a surface at an intersection. Although, because I didn't use the lawn method, I can't really do that here. But there is a way I could hold the main crown on. Well, that I can't apply it to this.
No, but that's not as much.
It won't help me in this situation.
It's not smoothing. It's more of how to set the slope, how to set the gradients. Yeah.
That's
and
exactly
so if you
right.
if you say holding the main crown, then any roads that cross that are secondary roads are going to cross and have to go up and back down as a little inverted, a zero length vertical curve at the crown of the main road that you're crossing. But that's exactly what you want to happen. Yeah.
Not here.
Otherwise, otherwise you're going to flatten, you flatten everything out through the space of the intersection. And sometimes that's what people want, but usually you're going to hold the main crown if you have a main road. If they're all main roads, then you wouldn't necessarily worry about that. But yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
this is
all right.
trick.
So now if you look at that back in this, now we worked on that edited.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now let's pop this up, and I'm going to just turn this off for a minute. If you like to use those, and that's fine, turn that back on. But just right now is going to.
I've never used it to this extent.
That
I got to learn. I got to practice this, because this is more like precision 3D now. I got to learn how to do this when we're done.
Yeah. Now here's what happened to this one. Remember, we put those lines in there. If I look at these triangle edges, see there's that line in here. But it made that much worse in terms of the jaggies, but it took out that giant W shape. So now there's a couple of things I could do in addition to that. Now, as I've fixed some of this, but now you could go in and say, chase down these triangle swaps, like, all right, there's swap the 10 edge.
Yeah. I didn't know you can do that from in here. Kind of convenient.
Yeah, and you can.
But again, are you changing the surface though, or just changing the?
Well, you
are
right? when you swap the edges, but if you
I am editing the tin. I am editing the tin, not just visually. I'm editing the tin. That's good.
Yes, but and notice there's an undo button here that's for each of those individual edits.
That's not so bad.
Yeah, but see, and you usually have to go down here, and you usually have to chase these, one at a time, all the way back.
Sure. Yeah. Well. Yeah.
All right. So anyway, when all that stuff's said and done, when you exit is when it asks you, do you want to save?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you say yes, it doesn't just write it to this file. It actually, it can, but when you say yes, it asks you for a file name. That's where you could give it a different. That's why I did the edited to begin with.
Or you can overwrite it if you want.
Sure, that's what I mean. Okay. You can either keep the name or you can add a new one.
I got you. All right.
And so I certainly put that name. I appended the name edited on there because the next time I process this called new road, I don't want to throw away my edits. So now, having done that, I wound up with, I've got new road that the RoadNet generates. I made the edits. I took out the peaks. I added these in here. And I smoothed out, what I needed to smooth out. Now, how do I get this island in here? And there's a couple of things I want to show you about this one. First of all, if you need your 10-foot lane width in here, like you've got defined everywhere else in the template, that's too wide. This red line is your 10-foot wide line from that edge out to here. So you could tighten that back up, but you may not need it. You may can live with that 8.5 or whatever that is. That's fine. I just wanted to point that out. Now, two ways of doing this, and I did it the way I would normally approach these islands. You can make a template that has the left edge being the inside curb with no gutter. The right edge would be a guttered curb. So let's come up in here where the two sides are parallel. And so I would have, my left-hand edge would be a curb on one side. This would be a curb on the other side. And then I would apply that template from this station right here up to this station right here. Then I would switch to the one that had no curbs out there. And by the way, I would have not just
so you use a template transition instead of a template point center line.
Well, no, it wouldn't be a template transition. It would be a template series. Okay. But you can use all those things together. You could use a series of templates, and you can also have template point center lines if you wanted to fix this down here. So, but what happens is I've got a template that goes from this center to this edge that has that little roadway in between. And then there's also, well, it starts in the center. It goes this way and it goes this way. And as it goes this way, it hits that curb that you define at a certain distance out, facing the opposite direction. And then you come out here to this curb and you face it back inward. Okay, you do the same thing out here. But you start it from here, you go out to here, and then you define, just like we did over here, the template point, and you've called this, median edge or whatever you've called that in your template. Then you say, follow that line, and you start it from the center here, and that's a little semicircle, and it comes all the way around here and comes back to that semicircle. And you do the same thing over here, because the template actually goes curb to center to curb to curb. Okay. So that's just, to be, a little bit of unnecessary complexity, but you could do it that way. And the reason you would is if you were really using this to tabulate up your subgrade materials and all that kind of stuff, which you're not really doing it that way. You've got a different approach for that, and that's fine. So really I'm dealing with the top surface here. Now, if I've defined through RoadMap, excuse me, and any subsequent edits of that surface, what this road would be with nothing on it, which is what I did, then this has a crease at the center line, falls off at 2%. I then drew this outside edge or took the one that you had drawn. I did 2D to 3D polyline by surface file so that it draped that on the surface. And then I did a 3D offset. So I leaned it back just like 1/2 and raised it up 1/2 foot. And then I did a 3D offset of that line 1/2 foot over horizontally, but 0 change vertically.
Okay, just like I normally do curb.
Just like you would normally do a parking lot curb. Okay. But the key is take that original outline and do it this 2D to 3D by surface model and drape it on that intermediate surface, that whatever its target is. Okay. Then I took a line, and I don't know that it's in here. Let me see if it finds it. Yeah, it's not. I had it originally done, and I wound up locking the stuff up. So I had built the surfaces, but I had lost the little lines that I drew, and so I didn't recreate them. But here's what I did: is back before I elevated all this stuff and turned that into a 3D polyline, or even just go back to the original 2D polyline. Make sure you keep that original 2D poly, because you're going to want to dimension the radius of that curve. And,
Oh, yeah, underneath it, it'll always be on zero. Yeah.
Right. So go back to there, and I drew a polyline from the center of this arc to the center of this arc. Okay. Now, and that's this there at 0 elevation. But remember those 3 lines now, they're all elevated into space. I built a little surface called the median.
Okay.
All right. And so it looks like here with the triangles on.
You raised it a week. Okay.
And the contours, that blue line's a contour. So you can see, no, there's not very much relief. You see how this contour down here on this end is a little closer to the ground.
Because the thing is on a slope.
Yeah, but it's such a slight slope, or maybe it's closer to the ground on this end. I guess it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it
then
gets,
you're and then you put a little hill on that. That's fine. That's really good. So you need another surface out of the median. Yeah.
Yeah, but here's what I did was I took that line that went from the center of this arc to the center of this arc. Okay. And my original surface before this one, called median, just had the face, the top, and the back. And so it went all the way across to the other side, completely dead flat. All right. So I took that 2D to 3D line, still 2D. I said 2D to 3D by surface model, and I put it on median. And then once I put it on that surface, I raised it up, I don't know, 2 or 3 tenths. I forget what it was, maybe 2 tenths, maybe 3 tenths, just to give it that little bit of crown that you can see there. So I got a little bitty high points that slope all the way to the curb, all the way around it, you see? So it just mounds it up a little bit. You see that?
Got it.
And and then once I did that, once I created that line, I went back and rebuilt the surface just by gathering up those lines. And again, I densified the lines. And called this surface median. All right. So now I've got new road. I edited with the little triangle points. I did the surface manager, added these things to it. I did those 10 swaps as I needed. I've now got this one called island, or median rather. And so I need to put those 2 surfaces together. If I want, I don't have to, but I wanted to do it. So that one
you would want to, because I would have to indicate in the vertical profile to the center line of the road that median. I'd have to show the bump up and down, because my profile, they're going to want to see that island. So, which we could worry about later.
Yeah.
But they're going to want to see that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would put the definition of that median into the profile of the center line, because the profile of the road, now they may make you, but
they just want to see what the grade is along the center line.
I mean, show the surface. Yeah, you show the surface, but I wouldn't define the profile with it. Just make sure, that's all right. So anyway, so what I do with the next step is in this triangulation file utilities, and I'm going to add then this new road edited, which was those things that I did originally here.
You're going to merge them.
And let's see here, triangle shaded, and
you want to merge, go to next, I guess. There you go.
So there's my little edits. Now I've got some triangle colors in here that changed because of some patching that I did to it. It's no big deal. But then I go to my next and I merge as soon as I get here. I merge my 10. Yeah, and so you're probably familiar with this bit.
This is the way I would have. This is the way I would have made the median, because I don't know any other way.
Yeah.
Good. So
So
that
now,
that beats using the median command and the road
yep.
net.
Yeah. And so, yeah, oh yeah. And so then when you have these checked here and you do a save as, it asked me, and so I called that my road
Sure.
and median merged. So that's now the surface. Now, if let me just close this off. Nothing to say there. So if I look then finally at this one as my new road median merged. Now see, the thing is, every tweak that you make to RoadNet, you rerun this stuff, you would have to go back through that process again. So,
Well,
get,
that's the problem.
yeah, you would get that.
You would do that last, I take it. You would do this
Exactly.
so that you won't have to, yeah.
Exactly right. So now, if I do this, now I did not fix that color
Yeah.
over there, but like there was one place where there was a little dimple in these side things here, like there was right in here, there was a
Mhm.
right there was a point
Mhm.
that sort of puckered it down like a pincushion.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I did some selective edits in there, and you can see I've
Sure.
got the
Well, that's fine.
I got all this stuff, and I took, and I did those, smoothed out the contour through there, so that all same thing there. And again, there was a little overlap in the folding of that edge over there.
Mhm.
But now here's what also happens too. And there you can see that little red sort of edge, and that was this same color over here. So that's all of those, basically some of those edited triangles they get put in there. Now you can, if you wanted to create or wanted to make those, make the surface have these particular colors, what you have
Mhm.
to do is you have to draw the surface triangles as
Mhm.
3D entities,
Mhm.
okay, and either into this or a blank drawing. You
Mhm.
draw those, you go into, and you do this, back out here, and then you
Mhm.
select those edges and you
Mhm.
give them a color or you
Mhm.
maybe put them on
Mhm.
a separate layer, each one of them,
Mhm.
and make that color by layer. And then
So you
you
have to make them faces then, 3D faces, in other words?
exactly.
Okay.
And then you go to triangulate and contour and you build another surface, but the only thing you're selecting are those faces. And of course you would have the boundary, you would get rid of those outside slivered triangles. And
Mhm.
so that makes that, RoadNet is doing that for you in
Mhm.
terms of, that's why that, the curb was yellow and all of that. Now,
Mhm.
a couple of things based on that is, if you look at, let's look at Towpath. Now remember, Towpath is done
Mhm.
with this template series because we went from no gutter to gutter.
Mhm.
Now, we could have done it that way. We could have used a template transition, and a
Mhm.
template transition is basically, it's the same template, but one of the defining edges transitions from one measurement or one defining location to a new one. And that's usually done when you're doing things like lane widths and such like that.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
it gets a little complicated with these curbs because I'm not just
Mhm.
defining these edges, I'm defining an entire structure called a curb. And that is
Uh-huh.
that's one of the fundamental components of a template is a curb. And the point is always that back edge of it. It's I'm not sure that I would have approached this processing and template defining that same way. I think I would have been uh, I would find more affinity toward doing it as defining those edges because that gives you that much finite control over it. However,
Uh-huh.
I understand because of the reporting and all of that, they consolidate it into a single element. And so therefore they can say, you've got so many feet of curb and that's how much concrete you need. All right.
Sure.
So there's a reason behind all that. But anyway, what happens is if you have a template series file and we go to edit that, you see all that we're going to be able to do is tell it a particular template. And here's the one with no gutter.
Mm-hmm.
And from that station up to that station, okay,
Mm-hmm.
there's the one with the gutter. And so it's a series of different templates. So otherwise, if you have a single, instead of a template series file, I'm going to change this now. I won't save these changes. But let's say if I use this 20-foot right sidewalk as a template, then when you hit edit, you're going to go actually into the template editor. Did that? I don't know if you got a second screen or something. There it is. Okay. So that puts you into this part where you've got all of these different named things. Now, here's part of this limitation here as well. If I go into, let me say okay to that. I will not process. But I go to my settings and my output where I triangulate and contour. And part of that processing is that I want to, actually, I don't want to draw those contours. I got set back in some of that other triangle work. All right, so I go to my triangulate tab and I set colors and layers. Now, when I do that, you see how that TG curb,
Yes.
well, actually, it's not, it doesn't even do it yet. I'm trying to, normally that would show up. It's not. Maybe. How many points do I have over here? I've got TG, curb, median, and sidewalk. That goes to the edge of the median and then the back edge of the sidewalk. Those points should show up, I think, if it were the same right side, same as left. I think all of those points would show up in that list. But anyway, all of this is just to illustrate the fact that when you choose, instead of a template, if you choose a template series file, then when you go to that settings, those named points, it can't pull out because it's using more than a single file. And it's not just there under this output where we can get that off, where we can set the colors. It's not just in here where it does. See that normally when you, this normally shows up all of those when it's a nice even, and I think it's reading it from the left edge. That's why you only saw that TG and curb. But when yes, it's okay to overwrite. And then anyway, when you let's save that now. Hang on a second. I'm trying to. Oh, when I was trying to recall the point I was headed toward. That's also this template point profile and template point center line. When you choose those, and that is a file that talks about, now it's a template point profile. So it's asking for not a profile file, but a file that lists which profile or files to use. Okay, that's what this up here, this TPP is. All right, so we're going to have that. Sorry. My entrance flare pro is what I called the file, but it's a TPP. Okay. And so when I look at that by edit, it's not my profile editor, it's a list of what happens to the template ID. And this is where it messed me up, was this TG. When I was trying to set that, and if I look at this list, again, if I'm trying to, let's say if I wanted to, I'm not seeing that list pop up, and that may be because of that multiple templates that I'm using a template series file. If you're using a single template,
yeah,
when
that's
you're
different.
doing this,
If you're using a simple single template, you know, one of these days I'm
well,
gonna do a normal subdivision.
yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't. This is too fun. All right, so
No, I mean,
this up
yeah,
here, this template series file. So if I go back to use, if I were to use, say, this this as a template, and then if I look at this as my template point profile,
Mhm.
and if I edit that, then that TG, when I choose list, it gives me unable to read template. Okay, I guess I didn't save it. Anyway,
Yeah, no problem.
yeah,
We can work on that
let's not,
for later one.
yeah, let's
Yeah.
not dwell on that so much. Let's just put this back as our template point, as our template series file. I think what I should have done was when I changed that to that, I had to say okay and save it and come back and do that. But anyway, if you were to edit that template point profile from the left and the right, you were saying use this, use that, and this reference template. Oh, that's where it was. That template series file. So if I used this template,
Mhm.
as my reference template, and then if I edit, then at this point it should, yeah, that's what I was looking for. So you see all those points,
Yeah.
there's the TG, CRB, CRBR, all that. Okay. But
Now
I
I can
didn't want,
assign colors.
I,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so but I didn't want to use
Yeah.
that. I didn't want to use that right here. And
Yes.
this is the reference template for my template point profiles. It's one I'm going to get this TG out of. Okay. So
Mhm.
instead of that TPL, that has to be that TP, the TSF, the template series file. Now notice when I go back to do it now, after I've switched it to a TPL, right up here at the
Mhm.
top, that's the only kind of file it's going to let me choose.
Okay.
Why is that? What is that? Well, the reason is, it's a little bit of a bug actually.
Okay.
So if I set it to none and then
Yeah.
save this, and then if I go back to it, it should, because see, this TSF is now back in place. And
Yep.
that's because this is where it's set up here. So it's taking whatever's in this up here. It won't let me set that down there as a reference template.
Okay.
But if I set it to none, it pulls it out of there. It knows which one is in play. Otherwise, by default, it knows which one to use. Okay. So all that being said, when I was doing this the first time, and I kept doing that edit, because my list, when I was, see, this list button would come up and I see, all I see is tie, because
Mhm.
it's trying to use that template called TSF.
Oh,
It's a
right.
template series file. So it doesn't have a bunch of points. It knows it's always going to have a tie point. So that's why, so it doesn't show there. So I knew I had to type it in. And I kept using FG for whatever reason, because I think I was calling
I
it face of gutter or something.
Mhm.
And I would process and I go, and it was just so puzzling because this thing never, uh, never ever resolved itself to following the ground edge out here. It wasn't using
Yeah.
that profile. Then it
Yeah.
finally occurred to me, and that's what was going on. So, so I got that figured out. Now, to illustrate what this whole thing now looks like, this, and we can use this whole thing. And if I now go to add the existing roadway.
Yes.
All right, so there's, look, it looks like maybe there's a bit of an entrance right here anyway with the culvert under there. I don't know if that's what that is really.
Yeah, it is, but that's going to be entirely filled up. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that I'm not so concerned about. But what I wanted to show you was that if I look at, let me also add the original. Oh shoot, I don't have it. Because new road followed. Well, anyway, when I had done this and it wasn't following that, when I was using that wrong point, it kept processing. It never gave me the error in processing. But this profile was, it was still 2% down, 2% down. Now, and that is from this central ribbed line. And then these edges, because it went 2% from here down and then 2% from here down this way, those edges were, you know, as I were to pop this up, I could see underneath that they were sticking through. Let me turn this off. And, you know, I could see the road was down there, and I could tell when I spun it around in this edge, you see, it didn't lie down on that edge. Now you can see the deception. I've got a little sliver of a triangle in there that is, yeah, see, it's so inconsequential. It shows up visually just because it's casting a shadow. But it is, yeah, it's not even enough to deal with, to fool with. But you can see now all the way across here, that's, well, and again, there's a little hump in this existing ground out here, because the only thing yeah, I mean, our roadway, our gray surface has been interpolated between this center line point, which was exact, the start point over here, which was exact, and this start point over here, which was exact. So within the extent of that happening, let's see, let's turn those back on so you can tell what I'm talking about. Yeah. So we had this point here, and this point here laid down exactly on this brown surface. But your brown surface has, you know, a couple of anomalies perhaps in it. It's got this little high point there, and this little high point right here, you know, which may or may not even really be there. It might just be a malformed triangle, and it really, honestly, is not the end of the world at all. And maybe even if it is in there, when they build it, of course, they're gonna, you know, blend that in. So that's the whole process. And this is, you know, using these 3D views and such to verify and confirm. And I mean, I even, you know, I took some of those quick profile drags and looked at how it crossed. And that was one of the ways that I kept trying to find this problem out here with this curb not elevating. You know, I looked at this brown surface, I looked at my road surface, I saw, not only did I see it here visually that it was suppressed, but when I tried to look at it with that quick profile as well, I saw that it was underneath. And I said, you know, man, something is up. And then I finally found that. Now, when I say I kept doing it, maybe 10 minutes. It didn't, it wasn't like days and days of spinning my wheels or anything, but that's what you have. And you have to be aware of, you have to be, you have to understand when you are using these files, when you're using these definitions that are multiple files, like a series file, or a transition file would not apply because a transition file is still just a single template. But a series file is a series of different templates. Okay, and that's a little confusing, but
that makes sense.
yeah, and like I said, if
maybe in Precision 3D in Precision 3D there's a way I don't have Precision 3D, but there may be a way to overcome it when you assign a material to it. But
not really.
Does it still work by 3D face? Precision 3D?
Yeah, but it doesn't, what I'm talking about in that definition is that when I'm trying to raise that curb face based on the name of that curb face, and because I wasn't able to pick it from the list. And again, I'm always pretty consistent in my naming. I always call those EOPs, for edge of pavement. I've used that designation since I worked for VDOT as a young engineer. I was in my early 20s, and not working for VDOT, but working on projects down in Virginia that were to be approved by VDOT, and that's what we always called them. So. And of course, that was long before we were using computers for this. But in any case, so I always, I can type that, will not have to worry about picking it from a list. But that's just some of the foibles of using those combined files, is you no longer have access to those lists of points because it can't go in and read a single template and give you the list of points in it. Now, my question to the programmers then would be, well, I'm giving you a list of the different templates that I'm using, read them all and show me the entire list of points. That shouldn't be that hard to do, but it doesn't work that way. So anyway, that's just some of the things to keep in mind when you're doing this.
Is Lon a programmer, or are they just
No, Lon's just tech support. Yeah.
Oh, right.
But
so none
Brian,
of them
yeah, Lon and Brian, I think, are both tech support, and Lon, I believe, used to be, I want to say, a surveyor. I'm not.
No problem. I was just wondering.
Yeah.
If you have an idea who to bring it up to for like a future upgrade, is it Luis or is it something?
No, it's that kind of stuff goes to either Dave Carlson. He's the head of all of their programming. If you know Dave, if you've ever interacted with him, he would be perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Either him or the other guy that could bring it up with is, shoot, I'm trying to remember his name now. I call him the Mad Russian. And he is Russian, but.
So it's Dave, not Bruce. Okay.
Yeah, Bruce is the owner.
Bruce can put me in put me on a conference call. It was not a smoke and mirrors thing, but he was trying to convince me to buy P3D.
Oh, and, I know.
And what happened was,
stuff.
Well, I put him on. I had him share a screen just like you and I are doing, and I explained to him, not condescendingly at all. I said, I'm a Carlson user. I'm probably always going to be. But your program, Precision 3D, even the drainage thing that he was pushing on me, it's got a lot of nifty features, but it doesn't do exactly what I want, exactly the way I want it, or exactly the way I need it. And I actually took through a project with my workflow, and he said, well, what would you like? me to add to convince you to buy this program? And he expected me to say a list of 2 or 3 items.
Right. Mm.
But I took my time, and I went. I felt bad. I went through my design process, and there were 17 or 18 different things that I needed the program to do. And the nice lady was there, Chen, the
Chen,
hydrologist. So
right. She's the Chinese lady. Yeah.
I said, this is fantastic. I love the interface, but I can't even model a detention basin with multiple outlets here to do, a 1, a 10, a 25, and a 100-year storm. That's kind of a deal breaker, and if I'm going to use the dynamic CAD or whatever to go back and forth, and I'm going to use that to redraw my profiles and to reconnect to HydroCAD. Everything's got to be connected. I just said there's still, it's a nifty program. You've come a long way, but there's still a disconnect. And he said, I'll get back to you. I've never heard back from him, but I thought he was a programmer, and he's not. So
no. He's the owner of the company. He founded the company. He's the guy that used to drive around to his survey buddies back in the early 80s with a couple of these floppy disks in the trunk of his car. And so, so he's very passionate about it. Now he himself is a surveyor and a engineer, both registered in
he seemed
Pennsylvania.
He seemed to know enough about design.
Yeah.
Where he was never confused when I was talking to him, but I showed him my process, it bursted the bubble there.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing about Bruce. He comes across as trying to really push a sale on somebody because he's really hungry for sales, and yet that's the furthest thing from the case, because I mean he's made plenty of money with his with what he does sales. He's got plenty of customers around the world. His issue is he's like a kid at Christmas. He gets so enthused by this stuff, and particularly the new stuff like P3D and the point cloud processing. And he gets his programmers and technical staff to show him how to do this stuff. And like he's still to this day, when he goes out to visit somebody, particularly the contractors and the miners, he has one of those roll up digitizers, that you could unroll on the hood of your truck and start doing stuff. And he's just
probably Carlson came up with a roll-up digitizer by now. It's knowing him.
I mean, Gatico is the company that made it, but he gets he goes, oh wow, let me show you. This is so cool. This is so cool. He's so enthused about it, and he's like a little kid. And that's one of the things I really love about the man, is that he's genuinely and honestly enthused, and he's not driven by.
He's passionate. Yeah.
Exactly.
I felt so bad that I felt so bad I couldn't buy the software, but he understood, and
absolutely.
Then it came to the point where he was interested in my design process. And like, I said, it's too bad I don't know programming, because I would set up this software a little bit different, but it's much more intuitively set up than the Bentley product. But anyway, he was not familiar. I showed him something about balancing cut and fill. And at a certain point, he said, what do we have to do to be like competitive or something? And I said, well, when you're goofing around doing a preliminary design, I would just site ops, and he didn't know what site ops was, and I couldn't believe it. Because, I said, well,
he will now.
Bruce,
and
I said, Bruce, this is your competitor, and if you don't mind, I'd like to show you. Would you share my screen? So I went to site ops, and I did some site opsing, and he wet his pants, the poor guy.
Yeah.
he said, does that actually move with that? And I said, yeah, and it's actually, you got to be careful because it's grading, but it's not grading. It's just doing a million calculations. You're doing the grading. I'm doing the grading. And I have to get the thing to grade the way I want to grade or the way you need to grade, not, it's doing a million calculations, and that's what I'm doing to do a preliminary pad or a preliminary road. So
Right.
I'm shocked that he didn't know. He was blown away. So
Yeah.
it's like, well, now that you know about that, let's see what you could do to compete with that. That
Well,
the
the
site net
problem,
has its own weaknesses.
yeah, I mean, the problem that the reason that he probably didn't know much about that is that Autodesk tried to suppress that technology so hard that, and that's why Bentley wound up owning it. And because they took it, Blue Ridge Analytics took it to Autodesk
Yeah.
first, and they said, nah. And of course, now Autodesk has it with this, what do they call it?
360
The
something.
civil,
Yeah.
well, the civil 3D is the design stuff, but they have a,
Do they have a site ups
oh,
or a
it
workaround?
works. It works sort of like site ups. It's not an it's not a real-time optimizer.
Nice.
It's like a, I don't know if you're familiar with Bentley's concept station, but anyway, you can do like
Yeah.
large, very large, cross county transportation layouts, and it'll
It's kind
take,
of like it's like open roads. It's their version of open roads. Or
it's
open
more
sites,
their
yeah.
version of concept station, but it's
Oh,
true, and
okay.
I forget what it's called anyway.
But anyway, I'm sorry for getting off the
That's,
path.
yeah, no, that's fine. But that's why Bruce is not aware of it, because he's very focused here, and he's not focused on the microstation side of this industry. So he's not aware of that kind of thing happening. And of
Well,
course,
he was aware of
microstation
Civil
incorporate.
3D. Yeah, he was aware of
Yeah,
Civil
yeah,
3D. But
right. But
I
that's
thought for sure he
Autodesk.
was aware of
That's
everybody else.
Autodesk.
But yeah.
Oh, he's aware of them, and in fact, his company and Bentley's programmers, they work together on this stuff. That's why
Wow.
IntelliCAD as a
Mm-hmm.
process, that's why IntelliCAD itself can actually open, read, and write and edit a DGN file without having to convert it to a DWG like Autodesk
I
does.
got it. Yeah.
It can open and use those files directly. And that's why you have things like, let me find a spot up here. See, if I go to a toolbar, you see these ICAD and then ICAD DGN.
Yeah.
See, that's if you're working in DGN mode, and you
I
have
noticed that.
commands.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and you
noticed
have
that.
commands like
There's
you
MicroStation
you
DGN
can not
right
only,
there.
yeah, you can not
Yeah.
only import, but you can actually open a if I go to this, you see that DWG, DGN, DXF, DWT. So you can actually
Yes,
open
you
the
can convert.
DGN file
Yeah. Direct.
and
Yeah.
work on it, and it stays a DGN file. You don't have to convert it. And all of that stuff
Yeah.
happened because Bentley and Carlson got together and decided, hey, instead of let's beating each other up, let's try to see what we can, help our customers out with, and say, because you're going to get files in from somebody that are in this other format, or I'm going to need to send you this information that I'm doing in another format. So how can we make that happen? So they're very much aware of Bentley. They just weren't aware of that approach from the side up side of the house. So anyway, that's all, soup for another meal.
Yeah.
So
Then at this point, I noticed that you process the road up to like 250.
right.
When we process all the rest of the road, is that going to screw up anything else, or?
All of those edits that we made down here to fix that little point in the triangle and to fix these creases, we'll have to redo. Yeah.
Okay. I guess what I meant was, do I need to do another template center line to transition to the other template with the two sidewalks? That's what I was getting at more. I know I have to redo the
the fluffing
at the driveway, but
Yeah, so
Okay.
when you get up to, let's see, you're going to take it all the way around to right
there.
here, okay? And that's where
Mhm.
you're going. Now, at that point, let's see, is that
Yeah.
done? That's with a gutter, right?
Well, yeah, yeah, they're
Yeah,
both
so
with a gutter.
this one's a gutter, not like, so,
They're both.
so
There's gutter on both sides. It's the exact same road. The only thing is,
there's
it went
gutter, but
from
now
the
you've got
exact same.
sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
it went from the exact same road with a sidewalk on the right to the exact same road with the sidewalk on the left and the right.
Okay. Now,
So it's
so
an
what
exactly. I
happens?
didn't have to
Yeah,
transition.
yeah. So what
Yeah.
happens there is you're going to not, well, it's not going to be a template transition. You're going to add to the template series. And the
Mm-hmm.
template series right now, you've gone from up at the entrance, you had a template that was curb no gutter. And then you got to the 20-foot, whatever that was, 20-foot right. Or here's my series. So I go to here and I have yeah, there's my start.
Yes, sir.
And it used the sidewalk left, no gutter, or 20, I'm sorry, 20-foot wide, right sidewalk, but left, no gutter. And then we just went to the 20-foot wide, right sidewalk. And that means that's got the sidewalk over here. So what you're going to do now is you're going to add into this that next, so we would, and so you don't need to do anything more about it other than know what that station is. So you would add, you know, and I'm going to screen pick this.
That's fine. It's good that you could stream point it because I didn't actually write down the other. I wrote down the other one.
Yeah. So where am I going to? I'm going to start here, not up here. Yes.
You're going to start right there because you don't even worry about that little hunk of
this part here,
because I'm going to add that as there's a new ramp tool or a new curb cut tool in 2021 that I'm going to use to fix that. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. So I'm going to go right there.
Yeah, 1301.
So that now finds that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. 1301.
And transition with now the template at this point that I want to use is the 20-foot wide left and right. Okay.
Yes, sir.
There we go. And now I need to edit that because I've changed the names of some of those points. I'll show you that in a second.
Oh, good.
All right. So now, in transition with previous, we'll see what happens.
Well, I wanted to, the thing is, I don't have a transition section. I want it to go immediately from one to the other. So I might need to do it in 0.0101.
Yeah.
I don't remember a station for that or not.
No, remember when we did that before?
Yeah, we had
and
kind
we were
of a
looking
kink.
at that. Yeah, but so when we go from here, we may have to do that because this is going to go from 1301 all the way up to this station. So we may have to go, we may have to put we may have to duplicate this one up to 1301.63. Okay, so and we'll see that, and I think that I think we'll have to do that. That'll keep that, and that will make that transition be just nearly instantaneous. Just
yeah, that's what I thought. And I don't know how much of a station transition is enough. I don't know if it's 0.01 or
sometimes
0.001.
No, well, 0.001 is too small for it to do. It ignores it, and I found that out down at the entrance. So .01 seems to work fine. .1 certainly works, but you can see that a little bit. But anyway, but let's leave this without that for the moment and see what happens to it.
Yeah.
So now we've got this one, and I'm going to go back and edit that in just a minute. So I'm going to save this. Okay, and I want to edit that template or that profile. Sorry, that it is a template. Okay, but it's part of the series file is here. So I have to go to, first of all, I have to save. I'm going to say okay and save this, and I'm not going to process it yet because I need to go to my roads and do my design template. And I'm going to look first at this one with the right sidewalk. And I want to jot down those point names, the template point names. Let me get my notebook open to my, just about filled up another design book. Okay.
Sorry, I'm putting you through the ringer.
Oh, yeah. Not a problem at all. Let me see. This is 508. 2, 3. There we go. So now, so I've got TG. Right, so that's my all important point. And then I've got that CBR.
You'll never forget that one after this.
Right. And then I've got a point that I called MDN for my median edge. And then I had a SW edge, or the sidewalk edge. Okay.
Yes.
And let's see, that median edge. So that was a 2%, and it went out 5 feet. That's what I was.
That's just fine. That's perfect.
All right. And then sidewalk went 2% for 5 feet as well.
That's fine. That's fine.
And oops, sorry. I'm going to take it out of the limit. So I just wanted to make sure we had the things. Now, Juan had all of these dummy points and stuff in there, and that was because he was trying to go from he's trying to link something up to a previous definition, basically with a 0 width element, and then bring it out. So I'm not trying to beat Lon up on this stuff at all, but because that was a good approach and it could work. But I think this is going to be an easier thing to grasp and an easier thing to process. So so not only do I want to and again, remember, all of these points that we're setting the far away point of each feature. So the TG, or that edge of pavement, see, that's the point of the pavement that's away from the center. The next thing we define is that curb. Well, that's the back of the curb. The next thing is really the front of the sidewalk, but we're calling it MDN because that's the back of the median. And then we go to the back of the sidewalk, and if there's no strip beyond the back, it's either that's where it starts to do the fill or cut slope. And if you had any kind of, let's see, let me switch this to.
This is always the far. What you define is always the far edge of whatever you're doing, from right or far left. So that's the thing. It took me a while to learn.
It's always the away point. Yes. All right, so now there's my sidewalk, same slope as the median. That's all fine. And it drains it back to the road. And right from the back edge of that concrete is where we start this. Or
we want that because we got wetland.
Okay.
Yeah, we're trying to minimize the disturbance.
Right. You don't have enough room to put ditches and berms and all that crap in there, nor do you really even need them. So that's fine. All right, so that's what I wanted to find out. I'm going to exit this, and no need to say that. I just wanted to get what those names were. And now I'm going to go to that same command, and I'm going to get that one that has left and right, and I've got to modify those. So there's TG.
I see what happened.
Yeah, see, so this needs to be CRB and CRB-R. It's that BCL and BCR, that part didn't work for us. All right, so we had dimension straight. We're matching the crown. We had, I think I had.
I think we were okay. We just needed to change the ID.
Let me load this.
That's right.
Or if this one here, because I thought I made the taper half. I think that's 5.5 and you may be right. Sorry, I need to go back and actually I could have done that just by doing a load instead. All right, let's see what this is defined as in my CB, my CRB. Yeah, that's it. So at a 5.5, boy, I must be dyslexic on that. I wrote down CBR. CRB at a 5.5. And a taper of 0.5. And then width was 18.0. Drop was a 1.0. Okay. Then 18, 24, 24. I just want to make sure I get that. So if I now save this, let's just call it that, and CRB, and we're going to save this and we'll put it back to with gutter. Yeah, we'll replace that, and now we cancel that. And
I think the problem I ran into with Lon was there was a CBR left and a CBR right.
Well, he called it CBL and CBR. The problem is it needs to have the dash in it. It needs to be CB. It could have been CB-L and CB-R. I think would have worked.
Well, we were wondering why it didn't work, and I knew it had to be a semantic thing.
Yeah, it is. So this thing is, if I load now that one that we just had, there we go, save that. And oops, sorry, not save this, but this we need to call, and it does say CRB. That's fine. So we just say okay. And now it says CRB. Now over here, we're going to do the same thing. And we're going to load this, but I think we need to choose that, and we're going to call that CRB-R. Okay, that part's good. This, we're going to remove this dummy point. And then we had
we got to call that median, and the other one we got to call.
Yes, exactly right. So that needs to be MDN. And this needs to be SW. Same thing now over here. This gets actually removed.
It's okay if my sidewalk on the left and the right are both SW, or do I need an SW-L and an SW-R?
No, those can be actually the same points, just like TG and TG.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And that's what that really, it's because of that structure business. CRB is a structure, and then that needs to be CRB because that will complain about it. And that's why I say I think I might have approached curbs a little differently as a programmer, but not being a programmer.
I got a CRBR. I don't have a CRBL. Does that make a difference?
No, I just kept it consistent with what we had back on the entrance. We just call it a curb. All right, so, and,
There's the one on the right is a dash. The curve on the right is a dash. It doesn't make a
yeah,
difference, sir.
right,
Okay.
but you could call that CRB-L, that wouldn't hurt it.
Okay. Anyway,
Let me make
just making sure.
sure, right, let me make double sure that I called that,
Here's the
let's see, that
reason why.
was,
When my road twists
yeah,
around upon itself, my CRB runs into my CRBR. Well, that doesn't make any
no,
any difference,
no,
because if it runs around, it'll run into my L. I'll run into my R. So
yeah,
okay.
but no, I mean, the L will never become the R. I mean,
so
it joins it. Let's see, this is the R, and you see, as you walk around, R is still over here because it's always left or right of your advancing stations. Okay.
Yeah. On the left side of my advancing station, as you approach the intersection, is where I might have a problem transitioning from CRB to CRBL or CR. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
We'll see what happens.
now, so now that's going to, that should now, and again, here's where I changed it, was right here, was I simply added to it that template. Okay. And we already had the transition there. Now we need to come up here though, and instead of limiting this, we'll do that. Okay. Now we still are going to want this because of those flares. And we may need to add some others up here as well, but I think this should work. We'll leave that as full. We'll say, okay. I think, did I process the intersections? No, let's do that and say, okay, we will save. And by the way, that part that that just occurred to me, I checked to see if I processed intersections. At one point I remembered turning that off just to save some processing time.
Okay.
So, and I think it was what I was trying to do was to, it's, even though I put that station 0 to station 250, because this intersection is defined, it still went all the way around and hit the intersection. Now, had that intersection been here, it would have stopped. But because it was beyond, it went all the way around to a fountain. That's why I unchecked it. Even by telling it stop at 250, it's still setting, telling it to process intersection overrode that limit. So that's why I had it. So go back to it now and tell it to process the intersections, and it should work. So let's see, we saved. All right, hold on to your hat, brother. I'm going to let you do the honors. So I'll let you push the button.
Well, let's see what we get, and let's see how we did. At first pass, doesn't look too bad.
Well,
doesn't look too bad at all. I'm getting a sidewalk on the left.
See, you got a sidewalk. That's a word. Yeah, that's picking up, and it shouldn't.
It's supposed to start here, but overall, not too bad.
What we got.
It made the transition here.
Yeah,
at six and change. So,
and I'll tell you where that. I'll show you where that happened, and let's take a look. If we do a. Let me just do a polyline from. And let's go to the endpoint here. I've got a suspicion of what this does. And if I go out to, let's use this, I think will work enough. Okay. So you see where it started, that is right where this ends as it comes around this. So that was that where the intersection stopped. Now,
Mhm.
that obviously shouldn't have happened. Why did it pick that?
I'm wondering if I should have made a circle out of that, but
Nah,
not a clever
no,
circle, but
no, this should all work. We've got the abrupt transition like we liked. That was one thing that we got out of the deal. What do we have? I see this is starting to flare out here.
yeah, for some reason,
Well, I'll tell you why that's doing that is because we said yes, transition to the last
okay.
one. And that was here
Mhm.
where we said yes, transition. So let's turn that off
Okay.
and see.
I gotta write that setting down. Do not transition with what?
Previous section.
Previous section. Okay.
Yeah, now, oh, that looked like it fixed. That fixed the transition back. Let's just see where, though, we get our transition forward. We still get the jump out to here. Now,
Yeah.
that's
I wonder if it has something to do with looping around on itself.
it does have something to do with that, but it shouldn't. That shouldn't be an issue because this is, yeah, the problem is it's the, I mean, it is an intersection. Let's see, you've got this towpath end with towpath. Why do we have two?
I don't know. Maybe that's what's going on. I didn't realize we had two intersections. That's probably what's going on. I don't know which one's the right one either.
Well, you can't do anything about it. These are simply found from the fact that you've got roads, and when
Yeah, but
roads intersect,
well,
they get created. So that may be okay. It may just simply be telling you that that's the end of your alignment and it is an intersection. Now, at
okay.
this,
Yeah.
yeah, so at this stage, and my you know, my awareness that this picks up and starts building right exactly where where the transition ends, it starts to blend that. That's where it then goes over here and starts to use that. Because when it's blending here, it's looking at that TG, that edge of pavement, and it's looking at this TG, which comes up here. And the TG that's coming up here is actually from the template that has sidewalks on both sides. But why would that push it over there? All right. If we get around, let's go back to this. I've got a suspicion here.
Is it because we didn't add that little .01
No,
break?
no,
Okay.
but it's along those lines. I think if we go back to this one for the last little piece, so I want to add one more, and its station is going to be whatever that one was. Let's see if I
I
start
believe
first of all.
the end is 1419.94, I think, is the last
There
station.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're going to go back to this one. And we're going to not transition. Now let's see if that works. Then that's just knowledge we have to keep handy. I don't know that it's. You have a nice
better.
speedy. You have a nice speedy machine at home. I like that.
It's it's a gaming computer. It's probably the same as my work one.
I see. All right. So what happens?
Nice, but it kind of moves.
Except now it starts over here.
Yeah.
It starts opposite this transition. Okay.
And I got a disconnect in my sidewalk.
So here's where it's going to maybe be that we need to start, or we need to go back to that one where the transition starts. Let's try that. If I now edit this and I want to go to the point where this runs out. And let's see what happens next. And I'm not sure. Let's see that we get our sidewalk. We get sidewalk there. We have sidewalk still over there. See, that shouldn't happen. Oh, no, that wasn't sidewalk. That was gutter. The sidewalk does some kablooey in here, right there.
Yeah.
And you see, it takes it all the way up to here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Here's what we should probably do. I don't have any aha moments beyond those at the moment, and I need to sort of dig into that. But instead of keeping you on the meter and tying up your time or even be charging it, let's save everything that we have here. Yeah. And we will save all of this. I'll exit that. We will save this drawing. And if you would put all that stuff back. Now, I think what I have to do.
Should all be on my desktop along with that folder you sent me. So I can email it back to zipped.
You could do that, or let me see if I go to Dropbox. And I was in here consulting Studio T3 transfers. If I all right, I want to do this. There we go. I'm trying to let's see if I open a folder. I'm trying to see. There's Towpath. All right, so I'm there. I'm trying to get it. It used to be that I could OpenDrawingBox.com. Here's where I think I have to do it. All right, so I'm in Towpath Trails. (2021-05-08). Towpath Trails. Let's see, Studio T3. Towpath, and I think actually I put that in transfers. Let's look at Towpath. Sorry, Andrew, bear with me one quick second. I'm
Okay.
trying to make sure we stay consistent on this. Let's see, I had Towpath Trails 0508. I had transfers. Yeah, that was the 2017 stuff. Good. Okay, so in Studio Towpath, this is the one I want. So Studio 2-3 Towpath Trails. Now this is where I want to. Already shows members as you and me. I will share. We shares the link because it's in a shared folder. What? Okay. If I take Studio 3D, share this folder. Only people invited can edit. There we go. So this is going to be Andrew Tergnoli. By the way, is your name pronounced with the GN like lasagna? Is it a Tergnoli or do you have the hard G?
I've had people do that depending on where in the world they're from. In America, it's the lazy way of doing it is a silent G.
Yeah, I just wondered how you prefer.
No, I've been called way worse than.
I'm sure you have. I just
Terragnoli, I think. One guy thought I was Irish.
Tergnoli. Oh, okay.
No, I'm not. It's not an EY. I said Terragnoli. Terragnoli is the way most people say it.
But it's not that Tergnoli like lasagna. It's that it doesn't have the NY sound, or is the G voiced?
Where I'm from, it does have the lasagna roll. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, so Tergnoli. All right, so now I don't know. Did you get an email? Can you check your email to see if you got it?
Let me check my Studio T3 email. Correct? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna dial it. Yeah. Let me